So, yesterday, I called out the guy in the White House for his silence over the 4 Green Berets killed in Niger. And here's what he had to say about that later on in the day. Take a look, please.
Toughest calls I have to make are the calls where this happens. Soldiers are killed. President Obama and other presidents, most of them didn't make calls. A lot of them didn't make calls. I like to call when it's appropriate, when I think I'm able to do it.
Just to take some time off his golf game.
Well, you know, I think most presidents make those calls. I'm sorry. And quit. You know what? Listen, just say, you know, maybe you hadn't gotten to it yet, but you don't need to bring in Obama. What is wrong with you? Obama does not, you know, just stop. You can say you're dealing with it, but you don't have to reach out because it turns out to be a lie.
Well, and these things are typically done in private because they're very personal. Someone's lost their lives, so it's not something that they do and then broadcast. By the way, I spoke with 4 people. You know, like, you don't typically do that. The thing that bothers me now is these families are still listening to this conversation. How sincere does it seem when you make that phone call now and you had to consult other people to know that you just wanted to say, I don't know what to say, but I called. Like, I care.
Well, he's obsessed with Obama and Hillary Clinton. Yesterday he was talking about her again. It's like, move it along.
But it just seems to me whenever he's criticized, because he was being criticized for not having called the families of the 4 fallen soldiers in Niger.
Right.
When he's criticized, his intuitive reaction seems to be to point the finger somewhere else. And that's exactly what we tell our children not to do, right? So when our kids do something wrong, they say, well, Bobby did it too. I'm like, is Bobby's last name Hostin? No, I don't care what Bobby did. And so I think we need to call him on it and say, you know, you're the president now. You do the right thing.
Yeah, I never understand any sort of attacking on either side of the aisle that has anything to do with the military or fallen soldiers. I think all of us collectively as Americans, you would be hard-pressed to find someone that would want to politicize that. So I'm always sort of confused by the political capital that he expends when he says things like this. That being said, you know, he ran as a much more isolationist candidate than traditional Republicans do, saying, you know, we're not going to go into any more wars. We're going to bring less soldiers are going to come home in coffins under my presidency. And he's actually turned out to be a lot more hawkish than I had anticipated. And so it'll be interesting to see if he continues to sort of go, by the way, ideologically in the vein that I'm in, what ends up happening with his supporters, because a lot of his base of supporters are really sick of being overseas, of being in the Middle East. So I'm more interested policy-wise what he does going forward.
I think most of our soldiers, you know, they soldier up and they do it, but you know, they're doing 5 and 6 and 7 tours, you know.
8, 9, 10.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And just not for nothing, but Defense Secretary Leon Panetta did mention that Obama made calls to families, just saying. So now, yes, we just dealt with that. So former aides, He also answered questions yesterday about why his administration seems to be having so much trouble getting stuff done and through. Take a look.
I have great relationships with actually many senators, but in particular with most Republican senators. But we're not getting the job done. And I'm not going to blame myself, I'll be honest. They are not getting the job done. We've had health care approved, and then you had a surprise vote by John McCain. We've had other things happen, and they're not getting the job done.
Again, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. That's them.
So his base agrees with him, though. They think he's doing a fine job. They think the politicians are the problem here, don't they?
You know, he's like the opposite of Harry Truman, because Harry Truman, the famous quote from Harry Truman was, the buck stops here at his desk. This is like the opposite of that. The buck doesn't stop here, stops over there.
Well, he also ran on a total deal maker platform, that I'm going to make these great deals. I'm going to cross the aisle. I know how to make the best deals. Well, you can't then just put it off on the party, the Congress, because yes, they do have to own this as well, but you're supposed to be wheeling and dealing. That's what your role is. And he promised us a deal maker, a businessman that would push stuff through. So when it doesn't go through, you say it wasn't my fault. When it does go through, I'm doing great things. You know, you can't have it both ways.
Well, I think I know we're going to be talking about it tomorrow, but I saw the movie LBJ recently.
A great deal maker.
The great deal maker. And what was so fascinating to me about it was that, Kennedy was sort of this show horse, right? He was this good-looking guy. But behind the scenes, LBJ was the deal maker. He was the workhorse. And I realized that you really have to be a consensus builder when you are the president. And I'm surprised that he is unable to do that, not only with the Republican Party, his own party, but with the Democratic Party as well. Why do you think he is incapable of building these?
Well, because he doesn't. I think part of the problem is he has no idea of
what he's doing,
how he's doing stuff. Because I think that it appears oftentimes he doesn't know anything about the details of his plans. He waffles in his positions. He asks us to vote for things that his constituents are clearly saying, look, this is not going to fly with us.
Well, he's not a conventional Republican. He's a populist icon, which we have to remember that when we're discussing deal making. I said this all throughout the election, that deal making in business is not the same thing as deal making in politics. Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, these are the heads that are really going to roll coming up in midterm elections. Steve Bannon, it is his life mission to drain the swamp. It's everybody's fault in Washington.
He hasn't gone anywhere.
Well, the opinion of the base of Trump supporters is that it's everybody's fault except Trump's, especially Mitch McConnell. Like, if I were Mitch McConnell, I would probably be a little nervous right now. And it's fascinating to me, like you said, that he made so many large promises in the health care bill that he brought up with my father. That bill was something that Mitch McConnell took a page out of Harry Reid. He was doing this deal in private, trying to ram it through the Senate, wasn't having any amendments, wasn't doing a lot of, whipping up of the votes within the Senate, and it ultimately backfired. And I think until everyone learns to govern traditionally, maybe they'll get voted out of office. It's entirely possible, but this is a Republican Party problem as well that we're not working together.
Your dad made a great speech, though, now that I'm thinking about when he sat in front of Congress and said, we're not doing our job here. We're not doing it. And I remember he called everyone out, and I was so moved by him saying, like,
it's supposed to be consensus building. And I think what's surprising, what's surprising to me also is Republicans don't seem to be upset about this blame shifting. I remember when Hillary lost the election, everybody kept on saying, you need to take responsibility for your loss. Don't point the fingers anywhere else. But now you have this president pointing the fingers at the very people that were criticizing Hillary for not taking the blame for it. I don't understand.
But his base,
it's the height of hypocrisy.
His base thinks that the swamp is trying to sabotage him. Make no doubt about it. They don't think it's his fault. They think that there's this large conspiracy that's trying to stop Trump's agenda because he's
Who's in the swamp?
Well, the impression is that every elected, trust me, everyone is the swamp except President Trump. And it's fascinating that he's still
Mitch is in the swamp too?
Mitch is the king of the swamp.
But before, who was the king of the swamp is the last guy who had the job, who had to get out because he was trying to work with Obama. His name is gone from my head.
What, Harry?
But when we come back,
Harry Reid? No, it's not Harry. No, it's a Republican.
Sounds like it's
crying, crying. Thank you.
John Boehner.
John Boehner
was in the swamp.
But he was a man who tried to work. Remember, he tried to work with Obama.
Yes.
And then he was like, peace out, not my problem anymore.
And then they said, you get out, and now he's out, and this is what happens. And you can't say anything else because we're going right to break.